tomorrow morning? It's an easy question. But why do we know that? Well, it came up today. It came up yesterday. The day before that, for every day of our entire lives, it's been recorded throughout history to come up. It hasn't missed a day since. So we're confident that we know tomorrow the sun will come up. Well, to know Jehovah is the hearer of prayer would mean that there would have to be prayers answered. A history or a track record, so to speak. Or else, why even bother praying? Turn with me to Acts chapter 10, verses 1 through 4. Acts chapter 10, we're going to look at one of the many accounts here in the Bible that shows Jehovah is listening to our prayers. Now in Caesarea, there was a certain man named Cornelius, an army officer of the Italian band, as it was called, a devout man and one fearing God, together with all his household. And he made many gifts of mercy to the people, and made supplication to God continually. Just about the 9th hour of the day, he saw plainly in a vision an angel of God come into him and say to him, "Cornelius." The man gazed at him, and becoming frightened said, "What is it, Lord?" He said to him, "Your prayers and gifts of mercy have ascended as a remembrance before God." Let's drop down to 30 and 31 as he's confirming this story. And it says, "Accordingly, Cornelius said, 4 days ago, counting from this hour, I was praying in my house at the 9th hour, when look, a man in bright raiment stood before me and said, 'Cornelius, your prayer has been favorably heard, and your gifts of mercy have been remembered before God.'" How many of us have had a prayer answered like that? Confirmation delivered by angel. I haven't. We know that that's not how it works today. Yet most, if not all of us here, can no doubt remember a critical time in our lives when we asked Jehovah for help, and we feel 100% confident that he answered our prayer. Here are 3 more recent stories from some of our yearbooks that I appreciated. The first is, my mother, who was a staunch Catholic, was amazed to see my new way of life. One day she said to me, "I had often prayed to God to free you from that wayward life. How happy I am to see Jehovah is that God, and he has answered my prayers." After studying 6 months, my 73-year-old mother was baptized. A brother in Senegal says, opposition started as soon as he began to associate with Jehovah's Witnesses. He writes, "I found everyone against me. My parents threatened me. My father told me never to come home again. My mother not only refused to talk to me, but cried incessantly. She thought I had a spell cast on me. Prayer to Jehovah is what helped me. I pray day and night. Now, after my baptism, the attitude of my parents has softened somewhat. How happy I am to help my family and to serve Jehovah, who hears my prayers." One more. This is my favorite. A vacation pioneer met a person who was a member of a sect of Christendom. The pioneer gave her sermon and was ready to leave, but the person said, "Don't go. Please stay. I have so many things to ask you about. You see, I've been baptized in my religion for 2 years now, but I feel the Bible is not being explained to us." So an upbuilding conversation followed regarding the purpose of God for the earth and for mankind. Many of her questions were answered that day. Her own daughter was already interested, even attending meetings. Imagine her joy when she got to know the interest of her mother in the truth. To her daughter, she said, "Do you know that just the day before the witness came to our door, we, your father and myself, knelt and prayed to God, asking him to send somebody to give us his light on his word. God has answered our prayers, because the very next day, 2 of his witnesses came to our door and brought the light that we need so much." Brothers, sisters, this was 4 many examples that are written down for us so that we may have confidence, as 1 John 5:14 brings out, that no matter what it is that we ask according to his will, he hears us.
Being James Durford, you're progressing very nicely as a public speaker. That was evident by the good modulation you had tonight, and we certainly appreciated the way you put life into your discussion. Page 111 of our B book tells us why it's so important. It says, proper modulation gives life to a talk, stirs emotions, and motivates people to action. Lack of modulation may give the impression that you have no real interest in your subject. But that wasn't the case tonight. It was very clear that you really felt it and believed what you were saying. And that's very commendable, that way it touches our hearts and moves us to accept what you're saying. There are various ways that we demonstrate it. Page 112 tells us that we change our pace. We notice how sometimes you would speed up, and that's good. And there were times when you would slow down. That's good. So varying your pace and your pitch are ways to make the information live. So keep that up. That's very good. Excellent quality, and it motivates people to take very seriously what we have to say. And as Brother Beamster was helping us to appreciate, prayer is something very important, but we want to make sure that we bear a few things in mind about prayer. For one thing, Jehovah is not going to respond to conflicting prayers. Have you seen situations where maybe there's a big game and people on one side are praying to God for the victory and people on the other side are praying to God for the victory? How's God going to answer prayer like that? And so people who think that God is going to answer their prayer really are setting themselves up for disappointment. God is not interested in conflicting prayers. Here's something else.